Welcome to our Jim2 webinar on email. A common thing I hear when I talk to customers is that they don't know what they don't know. And as such, we'll be going right back to basics for each topic to make sure you're all fully informed of each section. At the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A in which you can type any question you like into chat, and we'll either answer live or get back to you with an answer after our webinar. So let's start with today's topic, Jim2 and email. It's no surprise that email has been integrated into Jim2 for a very long time. It's an essential tool in the modern workplace. Being able to send a quote or invoice to a customer at a moment's notice, or being able to inform a selection of your customers about an upcoming sale has changed how we communicate. What is surprising, however, is that there might be some features related to email in Jim2 that you may not know about. Today, we will be focusing on outbound email. We will do another webinar on incoming email in the near future also, but due to the amount of things to highlight for each, we've decided to break the content up a little bit. Let's start on a job. Although this information will work wherever you see a comment or email grid on a Jim2 object. In the ribbon bar, when we're on a job or quote or project, you'll notice two main ways to create an email. These are new and related. New will allow you to create an email that is not associated with any Jim2 object. This is great for when you need to shoot off a quick email, but do not yet have a Jim2 object up to relate it to. But apart from that, you really should be using related. Related will create an email that will automatically associate itself to the object you're generating it from. If you have a job open, it will be associated with the job, for example. I will say that related is by far the superior way of creating emails, as having the relation to Jim2 objects is excellent for data integrity. And although they're grayed out at the moment, the next little section is how we either reply to or forward an email that's already in Jim2. These are standard offerings with reply and reply all and then forward that we're all familiar with. And they're of course gray at the moment as we don't have an email to reply to on the screen. Opening up an email using the related button, we can start to take a look at some of the features we have available. Attach from file is something I'm sure we're all familiar with. Actually, I can show you a trick here. This might be more useful for our cloud customers, but it's not a bad tip for everyone. If we click on Attach from File, it will open the standard Explorer window for us to find a file. But we can use some of Windows functionality to get access to the folder structure on our terminal a bit easier than having to click through each time. You will have to navigate to your folder initially, but when you find the folder you'd like to use the majority of the time, you can right-click it and then select Pin to Quick Access. From there, you can simply scroll to the top of the left-hand side of the Explorer window for the quick access options and select your folder. Can be a real time saver instead of having to click through your navigation tree every single time. Okay, so that's attaching an external document, but you can also send documents that are already in Jim. If we choose Select Document, we'll be presented with the Jim2 Documents folder structure that you can choose a document from here, or click the Search tab at the bottom of the window and use the search functionality. Second, actually we've already got some things in here, that's fine. Okay. Then we have the standard text editing functions like font and size, etc. The one thing I will highlight here is that you can click on the font button here for some more advanced features in formatting. I'll come back to templates as they require a bit more explanation, but here you can change between HTML and plain text. This is useful if you have a requirement to keep the email as small as possible. It is worth noting that if you do change to plain text, you do lose a lot of the options for formatting. Print and preview are up next in line, which are fairly self-explanatory, but after that, we have a manual button for the spell checker. The spell checker will highlight words automatically that are not in the dictionary, which makes it really easy to find anything that might have an issue. You can right click on a word and you'll find a few options. We'll set this first word to ignore as it's just a jumble of letters. We could click ignore all, but I want to show you some more actions we can take. We could right click and add words to the dictionary, but we can do that and more from the spelling options window. We can get to the spelling options by either the right click menu and selecting spelling, or we can push the spelling button in the main email creation window. In the spelling options, there are options to replace words or have them added to the custom dictionary. So it would like me to change short staff to 2 words, but I think I'll hyphenate it and then click change. Then I'll add nunchaku to the dictionary as I know it's spelled correctly, it's just my dictionary doesn't have it in. There are some options for the spell checker too, which will allow you to ignore words in certain circumstances. There is also access to these options from the Jim2 menu. We'll pop out of here. And if we click Jim2 and then user preferences, we'll find general spelling options and autocorrect options. Starting with autocorrect options, we have some options for automatically fixing some common capitalization issues. We can also click on exceptions, which will allow us to add specific words that should not be automatically corrected. This would be particularly useful if you had some terminology or acronyms that are common to your industry or workplace that are not as common in the outside world. Going back to the first level of the menu, we can also see a text replacement as you type. You may have exact circumstances under which you'd like a specific term to be replaced with a different term. And at the bottom of this window, you can enable the option to automatically use the suggestions from the spell checker. Closing this menu and then jumping back into our user preferences, we can take a look at the general spelling options. We'll find that this menu is exactly the same one that we accessed earlier from the email creation window. And as I mentioned earlier, it's something I didn't know about until I started writing this webinar actually, but Jim2 does have its own custom dictionary. You're able to add your own industry or business specific terminology in here to have better control over your spell checking. Alternatively, you can add words into the custom dictionary manually. And of course, if a word is mistakenly spelled, we can manually remove it. Now, let's see how to find an email in a job. This one might surprise a few, mostly due to how useful it is and how hidden in plain sight it is. Oh, and feel free to follow along in your own system. Because this is a demo system, I wasn't really able to have a lot of emails in here, but this will all work in your own Jim2. So while on a comment grid, we can right click and then select Show Find Panel. This feature will allow you to search the body of any email or comment that is attached to this object. And while we're finding emails, if you know that the email you're looking for has an attachment, you can bring your mouse to the top right corner of the attachments column header and click on the little filter. You can then select Has Attachments, and you will filter the list to only emails that have attachments. Something else that is quite popular is that you can change the email address that you're sending emails from, as long as that email address is set up in Jim2. As this is a demo system, again, it's a little tricky to show. So I'll bring over a window from our Jim2 production database to give you a better idea. If we click the drop-down arrow in the From box, you'll find all emails that are set up in Jim2 to be able to send from. You'll only need to select which one you want to use. And should you wish to find an email address, you can click the word To, which will, actually I might do this in the demo, which will open its own search box specifically for contacts with an email address. You can use the fields at the top of the window and perform a search. Alternatively, there are search options at the top of each of the columns. We can click one of these fields and, for example, choose Ends With to find any email addresses that end in gmail.com. Okay, so that was sending an email from a Jim2 object. Let's take a look at what's available in the Email tab. I'll skip lists and email rules as they're more for incoming emails, and we'll talk about them more in our next email session. But then we have email templates. Email templates are a great way to have a set of messages or responses pre-prepared with the aim of saving you time. You can have canned responses, perhaps about your opening hours or what services you offer. You could also create a promotion and use it as a template to advertise to your client base. The first screen that appears shows us a list of existing templates. You are free to name these as you wish, but I would highly recommend that you create a naming convention that works for you. You can then use parts of that naming convention in the search bar at the top of the window to help find templates you've already created. You can also click in the list of template names and start typing. This is also where you create new templates. If we click Add, a new window will appear that looks very similar to the email creation window. In fact, most of the same functionality is present here as when creating an email, with the exception of one group of settings, and that is the macros. Macros are Jim2's way of personalizing emails. They are similar in concept with Microsoft's merge fields, with the main difference being that macros already know where to look in your Jim2 database. There are a wealth of macros to choose from, and every new version usually contains a few more. There are three drop-down menus for macros: general macros, context, and then context macros. General macros, otherwise known as system macros, are populated by more general information. Things like your company name or today's due date, or even the user that's creating the email. The next two fields work in conjunction with each other. The context dropdown will allow you to select a Jim2 object for the available options found in the context macros dropdown. For example, if I select job in the context dropdown, we will have job-related macros in the context macros field. And the same goes for card files. I will make the point here that the relationship between the macros and what is on your screen is extremely close. By this, I mean that if you're using macros that start with card file dot, but you've clicked related to from a job, the card file dot macros will likely not populate. To assist this, there are additional pull-out menus in the dropdown which can further reference different parts of your database. For example, if we switch back to job, we can see some right-facing triangles in the context macros dropdown. If we hover or click on a line that has one of these triangles, we can find additional options that relate to that field on a job. By doing this, macros are then able to access non-job related fields while being generated from a job. You can add a template name. As I mentioned earlier, it's a great idea to use a naming convention. And then you can add a subject to the email and itself. In terms of the macros, when it comes to a part of the email that requires personalization or another kind of variable, you can simply select it and it will appear. Here at Happen, we use the customer reference field for the name of the person that we're working with. So I can add this field to have the name of the person appear. Alternatively, we could use job customer first name. It's important to remember that each of these macros refer back to a field somewhere in Jim2. The name of the macro is usually a good indication as to which field that is. For example, job.custref refers to the customer reference field on a job. You will have noticed another macro that's present in the template called body. This macro is a little special in that it allows you to email a comment from a Jim2 object. If we close this and take a look at a job, we can right click on a comment. We get options to say send comment via email or send all comments via email. The body field will allow these things to be populated. Mustn't be in that template as yet. You can safely remove the body tag from the template as well though. If you leave it, it just won't populate if you're not sending a comment or email, so it won't matter if it stays there as well. You can have attachments on a template also. Let's say your business is asked for a price list of goods or services a few times a month or week. You can save a lot of time by having your price list set as an attachment on a template. To do this, you can simply click Attach a File, choose a file, and click Open. This means that every time that this template is used, this attachment will already be attached. Going back to the email creation screen, and now that we know a little bit more about templates, let's take a look at the template buttons. We have two. One is Load Template and the other is Insert. The major difference is that if you insert a template, it will add the contents of that template to your email. Whereas if we choose Load Template, it will replace everything in the email with what's in that template. This means that your templates don't have to be entire emails too. You can just add one in for contact hours or one that's just an email signature. This is how you would apply a template to an email manually, but Jim2 can do this automatically as well. If we go back to our email tab, we'll find a button that says Editor Rules. Selecting it will open a new window that has three main sections. These sections are from top to bottom: branch defaults, source defaults, and then report defaults. If you're using our multi-company features, you'll have a drop-down at the top of this window to enable you to change between sets of templates that are available for each company. The first box is for branch defaults. It will allow you to set a template that you've created as the default template for the branch you specify. If you're not using branches, you can simply set an email signature or template that will then become the default for your business. Think of this like a catch-all, as in whenever there's an email that doesn't fit the below rules, it will use this one. If you are using branches, you may choose to create a template for each branch. This can help you to have a different contact information or different opening hours in the email signature, for example. Next, we have the source details. These settings will allow you to specify a default template based on where the email has been generated from within Jim2. If we take a quick look at the drop-down, we can see several options from email replies to quotes or even card files. What this means is we can tell Jim, when I generate an email by clicking reply on an email, to use template number 1. But if I want to send an email from a card file, to use template number 2 instead. And finally, we have the report defaults. These settings will allow you to specify a default template to use when you're emailing particular reports. This is commonly used when you have a template set for only invoice-related reports, or for when you're emailing a specific type of quote document. These 3 sections will work together too. In particular, if you have an email that can fit into more than one of these rule sets, for example, if you're sending an invoice from a job at a branch, Jim2 will use the invoice default template as that is the most specific. If you were sending a different report from a job that didn't have its own rule set, it would then use the default template set on the rule for jobs. To put it another way, when you send an email, Jim2 will check the bottom section for a rule that suits that email first, the middle section second, and the top section last. Some of you may be wondering, what if I put in multiple rules that have different templates, but for the same Jim2 object? The result is that you'll have a template selected at random for any email using those rules. By doing this, you can effectively have a set of rules that will allow you to have multiple email signatures that can be cycled through. One may advertise an upcoming sale, while another may highlight a new product or service that your business has. Each section has several columns that can be used to help you organize your emails also. The first can be described as the situation that requires a rule, and the next column is the template that situation should use. Email tags will allow you to automatically assign an email tag to an outgoing email that matches the situation. This will come down to how you have your email tag set up, but you might have a tag for monthly accounts run or one for sales or even support. It can be helpful to think of tags as folders that you're storing emails in. We will talk more about tags and folders when we're covering incoming emails in the next webinar. But for now, just know that they're there and they can help categorize your emails. Reply email will allow you to set the email address that you would like to send the email from. This can set up really good practices too, because your email recipients will then reply to that address, which ideally is a general return address such as accounts at or sales at. This means that if someone has a day off due to illness or annual leave, other staff can still see any replies as long as those emails are already set up in Jim2. We can set the archive rule that can apply to each template rule individually, and we can have the subject token. If you've ever received an email from most of our teams, you'll recognize the subject token as the Jim2 object, then hashtag, then object number in the email subject line. These can be set for any Jim2 object and that can have emails attached, and will allow any replies to automatically attach to that object in Jim2. And finally, I wanted to show you how you can use a list of card files to send a bulk email. This can help advertise a particular aspect of your business to a subset of your customers. To do this, we first create a card file list. And then in the reports drop-down, we select Email from Card File List. And then when we press Preview, a window will appear in which you can select a number of options, the first of which is the template you'd like to use. Most of these options are self-explanatory, but I will highlight that you can choose who you send it to based on the contacts against your card file, and that they'll appear at the bottom of the window so you can review and remove any as needed. Click Send and you're all done. Well, we sure covered a lot today. Today we covered formatting and creation options for email, autocorrect settings, creating email templates, and creating a list of default templates to use in different situations. And there you have it. I hope you are able to learn a little bit more about the different options and abilities of outgoing emails in Jim2. And be sure to catch part 2 of this mini webinar series to see what's possible with incoming emails. Finally, I'd like to thank you for attending today. So now I'll introduce Ian, who can answer any questions you might have about email. Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to take on any questions. Email being sent out of Jim2, of course, has been around almost as long as Jim has. Email coming into Jim2 has been the more recent change, but even that now is about, I think it's 10 years old for us. So that will be a very interesting topic when we get to that particular webinar. But the emails going out using some of these tags and these templates, setting up the editor rules should make email leaving your Jim2 database a lot easier to manage and a lot easier to find when you're looking for them later. Of course, we use it continually for all our support work. You will have all received emails from us from requesting quotes or jobs from us, and then you've seen the reply actions also occur. All right, Ashley, it looks like you've done a perfect job here.
I will say, Ian, that I did probably learn more about this, these features and feature set on this webinar than any other webinar that I've written so far. That there was that much hidden information that, although we've got it all right in front of us, we don't always look at all the buttons that are there to click, and found just an absolute mammoth amount of functionality, particularly around autocorrect and the templates. It blew my mind how much there was. So nice and quick today, I guess. If there were no other questions, we might, oh, here we go, Rob. Yes, you can tag multiple objects all in one email. Ian, you may want to talk to that a little bit more. I didn't cover tags as much in this email because they will become such a big part of the next webinar, and it is intended that both of these webinars sort of work in conjunction with each other. Sorry, Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, g'day, Rob. We talk about tags in two things. We talk about object tags and excuse me, and folder type tags. In the case of objects, jobs, purchase orders, quotes, etc. And so one email can definitely be tagged to multiple objects in Jim, and that could be quite relevant. You could have an email in a purchase order which is equally important to the job the purchase order is about, or even the quote that came from it. So you're able to make those tags happen. You'll be able to see the one email from each of those linked objects in Jim2. You'd be able to remove the tagging if you wish to as well down the track. And all those features, those linkings, make it a lot easier to find emails from time to time. For the folder tags, things like having a support folder or a problem folder, you can also have multiple tagging for that as well. It's always the one email, just tagged to multiple places in Jim.
What this, of course, means is that when you select one as read, it will select all of them as read. Grace asks, is it possible to have different footers for replies and a new message? Yes, absolutely. That would be how we set up in the template section. I might just pop that back up. So if we go to the email section and email templates, oh, sorry, no, editor rules, my apologies. We'll then be able to add one for reply. I'll just pick one at random. And that's added that one. And then we can select email new as well. Just as simple as that. Is that what you were looking for, Grace? Brilliant. Thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll talk again in the future. Cheers. Bye.